Hi everyone, and welcome to the first of the online videos that I'm going to be producing to help support you with your online learning. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the nature of God and the problem of evil, and this is the first topic on the Religious Studies GCSE Christian Belief section. So it's really important that you know that God has 4 key characteristics, and they are that God is all-powerful, and Christians refer to this as omnipotent. This means that God has unlimited authority and power over everything. And we can see this power through God's creation and also through the miracles that God performs in the Bible. Secondly, you need to know that God is all-loving. This is sometimes referred to as benevolent or omnibenevolent. Sometimes we refer to Christian love as agape as well. That's a special kind of love that God has for humanity. And God uses his power to do good, and this is shown through God's creation, by him caring for us, and also by the fact that he sent his son, Jesus Christ, to die for our sins. Next is all-knowing or omniscient. This means that God knows and sees everything that happens. Now, God isn't limited by time, so he knows what's happened in the past, but he also knows what's going to happen in the future. And finally, we need to know that God is just. And this means that God is fair. Now, given that God is all-loving, all-knowing, and all-powerful, this would make him the perfect judge of human behaviour. And we're going to talk about this more in our later video when we talk about life after death and so on. So I'll come back to that later. Now, I'd like you to pause the video and I would like you to make a note of those key terms and their explanations. And if you'd like any more information, you can refer to page 10 to 11 of your textbook using Caboodle. Okay, so next. So Christians believe that God has these different key characteristics. They make up the nature of God. However, there is a problem with these characteristics. And atheists would argue that this Christian view of God, it just doesn't make sense at all. And that is because of something which is often referred to as the inconsistent triad. If you look at the diagram, it will show you the inconsistent triad. And what that basically says is that if God is all-loving and all-powerful, then how can he be all-knowing and allow evil and suffering to exist? Equally, if God is all-knowing and all-powerful, he can't be all-loving if he allows people to suffer and evil to exist. And finally, if God is all-loving and all-knowing, how can he be all-powerful that this evil and suffering exists? So this is one of the arguments that would be used by atheists to either disprove that God exists, but there is an issue with that. And so other people might argue that while this doesn't disprove God's existence, it certainly calls into question the nature of God and how Christians believe God is. So moving on, I'd like to show you some of the arguments that Christians would give in response to atheists who use the problem of evil and the inconsistent triad as an explanation against God's existence. First of all, they may say that evil is the work of the devil, not God. They may argue that evil is there to test our faith, that evil and suffering is a punishment for our sins, and that if there was no good and no evil, people would not be able to show their human qualities such as compassion and kindness. And finally, they may argue, and this is a particularly important point, that God has given us free will, and evil and suffering is human beings misusing their free will. Now, I want you to pay particular attention now to this quote from Richard Swinburne. He said, to have a real choice about our actions, there must be real consequences. If not, we're living in a toy world and we're no more than puppets of God. So I'd like you to pause the video now. I'd like you to make a note of the inconsistent triad and then the Christian response to that. And I'd also like you to have a think about this quote and write a paragraph in your notes to explain whether you agree or disagree with Swinburne's point. Once you've done that, it's time to